Hey everyone, today we're talking about Metal Gear Solid Delta. Marketed as a fresh remake of the legendary Metal Gear Solid 3, the big question is, after the massive dud that was Metal Gear Survive, did Konami actually manage to pull this one off? Let's break it down. Now, as many of you know already, Konami doesn't exactly have the best rep with gamers. After the messy fallout with Metal Gear creator Hideo Kojima, a lot of people wrote them off completely. But lately, they've been making a bit of a comeback into the industry. The Silent Hill 2 remake was surprisingly great, and that gave fans some hope that maybe, just maybe, Konami could handle a project as beloved as Snake Eater. Metal Gear Solid Delta has been pitched as a faithful reconstruction of MGS3, and honestly, I think they did a pretty solid job. But, and this is a big but, you've got to go in with the right expectations. This isn't a Final Fantasy VII remake or Silent Hill 2 remake situation where they rebuilt entire systems from the ground up. This is much closer to a super beefed up remaster. Basically, it's the same MGS3 you know and love, just with a gorgeous visual overhaul and some much needed modern controls. If you go in expecting a total reimagining, you're probably going to be disappointed. But if you're cool with the faithful delivery of Kojima's original vision, just in a shinier, smoother package, then you'll have a great time. So let's start with the biggest upgrade, the visuals. This game looks incredible. The jungle is lush and alive, character models are full of detail, and Snake's facial expressions are more nuanced than they've ever been. It's easily the most immersive Snake Eater has ever felt. Konami really nailed the character designs too. Eva, the boss, the Cobra unit, they all look amazing, and it makes the spy thriller vibe hit even harder. What I really appreciate is that while the graphics are modern and technically impressive, they didn't throw out the original art direction. Sure, there are some differences, like the green-brown haze in the original. Here in Delta, the green tones are pulled back for a more varied color palette, which personally I think was a great choice. Sure, some critics will point out moments where the original atmosphere hits harder, but as a whole, MGS Delta looks stunning. Now gameplay. This is classic MGS3 stealth action, for better and worse. Structurally, it's almost a one-to-one recreation. Enemy placement, cutscenes, item locations, it's all basically the same. And honestly, that's by design. The devs clearly wanted to keep Kojima's vision intact, even crediting him prominently in the opening. If you're a purist who wants the game exactly as it was, you'll love what they did here and feel right at home. That said, this is also where I kind of wished Konami took more risks. Don't get me wrong, the updated controls are fantastic. Third-person aiming feels smooth, keyboard and mouse controls are responsive, and even the new roll to prone move feels slick. But these modern controls are layered on top of 2004 enemy AI, and that doesn't always mix well. Enemies are still pretty dumb, like just look at this clip. They also just stand around in the open during combat, and with the modern aiming, you can line up headshot after headshot like it's nothing. Back in 2004 with the fixed camera and first-person aiming, it was a struggle taking down enemies with the finicky controls. But now with the fluid third-person shooting, the balance feels off. Even with the tranquilizer gun getting nerfed by adding projectile fall-off, it's still way too easy to bulldoze through enemies. It makes me wish Konami had reworked enemy AI, or at least redesigned some of the environments to better match the new control scheme. The bosses follow the same pattern. They are the exact same fights from the original, but surprisingly, they still hold up. It really speaks to how far ahead Kojima was. These boss encounters are still iconic even 20 years later. Personally, the hide and seek gunplay in the Fury boss fight is still my favorite, but honestly, from Ocelot to the Pain to the End and more, they are all so distinct and memorable. That being said, like the enemies, I do think that these fights could be modernized a little bit. Some of them still rely on long invulnerability phases after you damage the boss, which ends up feeling kind of turn-based once you figure out the pattern. Imagine if they reworked it so bosses had more health, were always vulnerable, and just had adjusted movesets to counter your stronger controls. That would have been a great way to breathe new life into these 2-decade-old fights. But as is, they're still fun, and if you love them in the original, you'll probably love them here too. For what it is, Konami really stuck to their word. The game is faithful to the original, just made smoother thanks to the updated controls. If you're a longtime fan of MGS3 or someone jumping in for the first time, Delta absolutely delivers that authentic experience. Story-wise, I'm basically a broken record at this point. It's identical to the original. All the same cutscenes, codec calls, dialogue beats, everything is intact. You've still got the same heavy themes of loyalty, patriotism, betrayal, and what it means to be a soldier. You've got the same mix of badass, silly, and just plain weird characters. And of course, you've still got a lot of cutscenes in true Kojima fashion. If you played MGS3 before, you know exactly what to expect. If you haven't, well, get ready for a mix of dead serious spy drama and unhinged Kojima silliness. So what's the verdict? Metal Gear Solid Delta is basically the original MGS3 with a fresh coat of paint and smoother controls. If that's what you want, you're gonna love it. Just don't expect a total reinvention. This is less of a remake and more of a remaster plus. Honestly, the line between those two terms have always been blurry, but Delta really lives in that gray space. For me, I had a great time replaying Naked Snake's story in Metal Gear Solid Delta. It's still one of the best stealth action games ever made, and Delta is the definitive way to play it if you're new to the series. For veterans, it's more of a nostalgia trip than a brand new experience, and in that sense, I wouldn't call it a must-buy at full price. But on a sale, absolutely worth it. At the end of the day, Konami didn't reinvent the wheel here, but they did remind me why Metal Gear Solid 3 is such a classic. As long as you have the right expectations, this is a solid entry to the MGS legacy.